Hi, I'm Ricky Widmer.
And I'm Johnny Karlic.
And today, we're using the Force on you. Going to be talking about some Star Wars, baby. Who are the Last Jedi?
You want to watch this podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with Philip Manchild.
Johnny Karlic.
And we are back for the Rick and Johnny podcast.
Wubba-lubba-dub-dub.
And I'm glad you guys enjoyed last week in the Rick and Johnny podcast. We got a lot of good feedback, especially from the MVP crowd that's used to coming to us for sports. But Johnny and I are so excited to continue this podcast, to be able to talk about some nerdy things with you guys and kind of let off a little bit of a different personality from MVP. But today we got a jam-packed show, Johnny. We're going to be talking Star Wars, Who Are the Last Jedi. We're going to be looking at X-Men,
possibly a Dark Phoenix saga.
Oh, don't screw it up. Don't X-Men Last Stand it, and I will be okay. And then lastly, we're going to look at Kong. We're going to look, supposedly there's a post-credit scene that's supposed to be really good, so really, we hear that and we got to speculate.
Yeah,
so
obviously. We can't just leave it alone.
Yeah, we can't leave it alone. We're going to speculate. And also at the end, Johnny wanted to kind of take that and look to the older Kong films. We're going to do that in the King Kong segment. But let's start with Star Wars. And I'm going to throw the question out to you as always, and then I'll pour a little bit of my tasty beverage.
Yeah.
But the question I'm going to ask to you is, who are the Last Jedi? Who are they?
See, that's a complicated question because Jedi is not plural.
Well, it could be singular.
It could be singular, it could be plural.
Be
and
plural.
before you pour that tasty beverage,
Okay.
we don't want to have the same accident as last time.
Well,
so
we
I
don't.
got you
As
a
a-
little something.
You got me a sip. I'm going to use the sippy cup.
Hell yeah.
And it's a Batman sippy cup.
Obviously, we don't want him spilling on himself again like last week.
Oh, it's got a straw. Oh, I'm going to use this. So thank you. Thank you for thinking.
You're welcome.
For thinking about me. We don't want me to spill. But
Not again.
Who are the Last
Last
Jedi? It could
Jedi.
be singular. It could be plural.
Yeah, so the thing is, we have Luke, who is definitely a Jedi. We all know that from previous films, from this past film alone. And the thing
Gotta make sure it's clean.
Obviously. And the thing is, he's training Rey now. The question is Rey going to be a Jedi? She is a light force user, definitely. We know that now. But she doesn't have to necessarily follow suit with Luke. So are we going to have one Jedi? Are we going to have two? And the other thing to follow that is if Rey takes the mantle of Jedi, are we going to have two Jedi with her and Luke? Or are we going to get an Obi-Wan Yoda scenario where Luke doesn't make it through the film?
Well, it's one of those things where, really, did you just hit me with a Luke might die in this film?
Oh, I got to throw that out there.
Is that what you're
'cause
throwing out
I'm
there?
going to throw that out there because it makes everyone here a nervous wreck. And you can join me on that now.
We will get to that as I am now gripping my sippy cup with the greatest of force. But to me, it's one of those things where I had the same thing as you. Coming out with The Last Jedi, I'm like, okay, is it talking about Luke? Is it talking about Ren? Are we talking about Kylo? And to me, that was basically kiboshed when, if you look at the Spanish posters,
Yes.
it says Los Últimos Jedi, which means Jedi's plural.
Yeah.
We have multiples. And to me, there are four characters in this film that we can consider Jedi. The obvious ones are Luke and Rey.
Yes.
But then we got Kylo and Snoke on the other side. I mean, we don't really know a lot about Snoke. There's been tons of theories out there about, is he... I'm trying to think of the name. It was basically one of the dark Sith lords.
Darth Tyrannus?
Tyrannus, who could, before they died,
No,
could
I'm
go
sorry.
to another...
Plagueis.
Plagueis, that's what it was.
Plagueis.
Could go to another host and kind of go that way. They also had that theory that Jar Jar is a Sith Lord. Which
I still like that one.
That was one of my favorite ones.
It's probably the best one I've heard.
The point is, we don't know a lot about Snoke. So to me, I'm like, is he a Jedi? Right now, I'm saying he is, because I'm getting more of a master-apprentice role between Snoke and Kylo, because Kylo's like a loose cannon. Right now, he is not a master. He's nowhere near a master. He's a loose cannon. And looking at the other side, I mean, we know Luke's a Jedi.
Yes.
And Rey would be the apprentice, but you mentioned Rey, and you actually went into this more before we were recording, and I'm going to throw it in now for you. With Rey, is she going to be solely on the good, Or is she going to be more like a Qui-Gon character where she's kind of in the middle and she's a gray Jedi?
See, I'm going to speculate this on this movie as Ricky takes a sip of his tasty beverage.
It just foams up, so it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything.
So my speculation is that she's not necessarily going to go the Qui-Gon route where constantly not agreeing with the people who are definitely Jedi or not agreeing with Luke. Now, I feel like she's going to butt heads with Luke on idealisms. So maybe she's not going to necessarily be a gray Jedi, but she's also not going to be a full-blown Jedi. I feel like she's just going to be a light force user, or unless she gets that push that we're all hoping doesn't happen, she's just going to stay a light force user. Otherwise, that push may turn her into a Jedi.
So I'll ask you this
Yes.
to be the one thing that I did notice. Well, I noticed it after I had seen somebody else mention this, is if you look at the kind of box picture that we got for Force Fridays 2, you see there's Poe, there's Finn, and then you see Rey
with the lightsaber.
The one thing that was pointed out to me was if you look at her haircut, her haircut is very, very similar to what that would be if we had a female apprentice in the Jedi world. The males, we all know the Anakin look with the little hair.
The rat tail.
That's the rat tail right there. But the way that Rey's hairdo is done in Force Fridays 2, the box set, and I'll put a link to that picture down below for you guys, it's very much like a apprentice to a Jedi for the Jedi.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, no matter what, she is an apprentice to Luke.
Well, she's going to be Luke's apprentice.
Yeah, no matter what, she's his apprentice. Now, what way she takes that afterwards, we'll have to find out in the movie. But the other thing is, that could always be just for a fighting style effect.
Is she related to Luke?
I don't think so.
Because we still don't know that answer.
No, we don't know. She could be related to Luke. Some people say she's Obi-Wan's daughter or granddaughter, whatever, to how many years it's been, or possibly Luke's niece.
Yeah, well, she'd be related to Luke. If you're
and
talking
she'd be related to Kylo Ren.
Yeah, you're talking about if she's Han and Leia's.
That's mine. That's the one I go with.
See, I don't. To me, when it there's a lot. The thing about Star Wars is they're very tight-lipped, and for us, it is very. For us, it's good because we get to speculate and we get to talk about things and then
a lot more surprises.
Proven wrong. I don't know if she's related to Kylo. Like, there's something where, I mean, after seeing Force Awakens, me and you saw it together in the wee hours of the morning when we saw it, and
always an amazing time.
I don't know if she's related to Han and Leia. I think though there's a possibility that she could be maybe related to Luke without being related to Han and Leia.
Well, I mean, technically, if there's one relation, there's always going to be another. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Where it wasn't Leia and Han that had her go to this planet. Maybe it was one of those where, okay, Luke sent her off to the planet where she was because he knew the Force was in her and then sent her away.
The only reason I think it's more so with Han and Leia than Luke is because of how much of a father he starts acting towards her.
You're talking about Han?
Yeah. When he finds out a little bit about her backstory, he acts a little bit more fatherly towards her, which was a weird twist because he had no reason to act like that.
And they do have the same kind of passion for the Millennium Falcon.
Yes, they do.
With everything.
Towards just ships in general.
I can see it. There's just a part of me that's very like, would Disney and would Star Wars, would they go that direction? I don't think they'd go that direction. And to me, in my head, it's one of those things where they haven't given me enough to where I could say, yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, I agree. Like I'm not definitely saying it is, but that's the one I'm going with.
My mind is like a hurricane of just wind and all these ideas when it comes up to who is Rey.
Yeah.
Where does she fit in? But the thing that I will say is going back to like who are the Last Jedi, I think it's going to pertain to more than just Luke and Rey. Because if you look at the other films that we've had, just look at the titles. The Phantom Menace was Darth Maul, died at the end.
Yeah.
That you look at Attack of the Clones, that's where we had the war and where the clones were being used. Then Revenge of the Sith. That's with Anakin goes over to the dark side,
Yes.
and that's the Sith's revenge on the Jedi Council.
Taking everything out except
A New
handful.
Hope. A New Hope is basically Luke comes and he is the New Hope for
The Jedi and the Force and everyone in the universe.
rebellion, for good against the Sith. Empire Strikes Back. That's the downfall of Luke, where the Sith starts to rise and where we get the iconic "Luke, I am your father"
Get
line.
some more pushback from the Empire now that they've got something to
we also get the
fight
Vader. What does he say? Where it's like we can do this together, and Luke's like, "No,
We can take over the galaxy together."
and he's just screaming, "No!" as he gets his hand cut off. And then Return of the Jedi is Luke coming back and returning, and then The Force Awakens is the Force Awakening in Rey is what I am taking from it in that sense. And then you get to The Last Jedi. It could be all four. It could also be Luke and Rey are the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And if you want to say, well, Ricky, Kylo and Snoke would be Sith, they're not Jedi. So really then The Last Jedi would be Luke and Rey. And what do they do? Because it's going to be interesting for them to show what's exactly happened to the Jedi from number 6 to number 7, because we never got that in number 7.
No, we didn't get a whole lot of what happened to the Jedi. I mean, we didn't have a lot to start off with in 6 or into 7. We basically just had Luke because we saw in episode 3, majority of the Jedi were killed off. Then we also saw in number 7, in little clips here and there, Kylo killed off majority, if not all, of Luke's students.
Well, with the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, exactly. So we are down to a minuscule amount of Jedi, and obviously Luke went into hiding, so he hasn't been training anyone probably, or not much of anyone. So we really don't have any Jedi. So yeah, the Force Awakens is a good name for it because it awakens in Ren. And here's another one we haven't talked about just yet on the podcast. Other Force users, just like Leia, we have Finn. A good example of that, not just when
That's going to be his whole backstory is going to be interesting as well.
Well, here's the thing that I found interesting. A lot of people just go along with the fight scene where he holds his own against a slightly injured Kylo Ren. But let's not forget too, ever since he was a baby, he was trained by it's not the Empire, the First Order.
Yeah.
To be a soldier. And
Yeah, he was
the fact that at whatever age he's at right now, what is it, maybe his teens or 20s, he broke that mind, that training, that everything that he was taught since a baby. He broke that and realized this is wrong, which is why I say at least he's got to be like Leia.
I really hope in The Last Jedi, if we get some of what Finn's going towards, I hope we get Phasma's got to come back and she's got to be a part of that, because
that would be interesting.
That was the one knock I had on The Force Awakens, is I felt like in the trailers and with the look, they made Lord Phasma, who is Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Yes, she is, isn't she?
She looked really badass. And it was like, I can't wait for this character. And then it's kind of like she has a few lines here or there and she gets out-tricked by Finn, where it's like, really? Really? That's all we get? That's all we get from her?
I mean, it's not
That's
like
all we get from this captain that has a different suit than all the other stormtroopers?
Yeah, it's a special suit. I forgot. There's actually like something out there of what it's made out of.
Because I believe she's the one that actually was behind or in charge of training Finn when he was coming up.
She's
in
part
the
of his
First
unit.
Order. Yeah. And that's why I feel like we need to get her back in this to complete that cycle into his backstory, into his story moving forward even.
And I mean, which is a good thing. We can technically get her back in some sense because all he did was throw into a trash compactor. Look at
That's it.
the old Star Wars movies.
She
What is
got
it,
out.
number 4,
yeah.
right?
It was A New Hope.
They got out of
I
there.
was going to say number 1.
Well, it is number 1.
It is number 1.
If
It's
you go
number
with the
1 in my
timeline
heart.
order.
It's
Yes, of
number 1 in
course.
my heart. Like, I was going to say number 1 because that's the first one I've seen, and the prequels don't count. The one thing, though, that I did find funny is I was watching this YouTube channel called Emergency Awesome that has a lot of nerd topics on it, and they do a lot of he does a lot of like newsy stuff. He mentioned in one of his Star Wars videos how we could be getting back, and they could be mentioned in a future Star Wars, the midichlorians.
Oh, cool. We're going to maybe some talk of that.
So don't forget about the midichlorians that everyone hates and how they'll come back from the prequels. But before we kind of wrap everything up, is there anything with the Star Wars discussion that you think we haven't hit?
Well, let's see. We hit Luke and Rey. We hit a little bit on Kylo and Snoke, which I'm going to throw this out there real quick. I think they're going to stay Dark Force users.
You don't think they're going to be, it's going to be like, oh, they're the Sith?
At least. Sith is a type of Dark Force user. They kind of haven't mentioned Sith whatsoever yet.
Unless this is a change into like the old ones were Sith versus the Jedi. This is we're transforming into what the Sith has become, and then Luke is the last Jedi training Rey.
Yeah,
and it becomes a choice of, it's a crossroads. Do we try to bring back the Jedi, or do we go into the future taking this Jedi and morphing it into
what it needs to be now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as of now, I'm going to go with that she's just going to be a light force user because we don't necessarily have a Sith. It hasn't been set that there's a Sith. Now, if we go with the idea that Snoke is Darth Plagueis, we have one Sith.
That's the Sith.
Well, now hear me out on this.
Okay.
We have one Sith and one Jedi. We have one Dark Force user, one Light Force user. Kind of the newer generations falling out of the technical order and going into this new, I'm just a Dark Force user now, and I'm just a Light Force user now. There's a little bit more play in the rules.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be interesting. I don't think they'll do the Dark Plagueis thing. I really don't. I would love it. I would too. I'm hoping they do. I heard the theory the first time before episode 7, and I was like, oh my God, that would be so fucking cool.
Not to mention
like, why can't we do that?
The amount of force degradation, which is what keeps the Sith alive, but they start deforming so badly. It kind of coincides with how weak he is. Yeah, exactly. And that was only Force lightning.
Yeah.
There's some speculation it could be Palpatine, too.
I mean, just look at how he looked from the 3rd one all the way to the 6th one.
Yeah.
Totally different guy by the end of the 6th one.
Yeah, it looked like it just kept getting worse and worse.
So, I mean, to me, I feel like The Last Jedi might pertain more to Luke and Rey. It's going to be interesting on that backstory, because the one thing I will mention before we wrap this up is I watched an interview with Mark Hamill. Okay. He originally thought he was going to have more screen time.
Really?
Yeah. He before the film, dropped a few pounds, got into some shape because he thought Luke's coming back. He's like, you know what? Luke is in it. I'm in it, before he had read the script or anything. And then he got there and he was like, oh, I'm just at the end. He's like, I didn't have to lose this weight. I didn't have to do anything.
Well, at least he's prepared for the new movie now.
Yeah, he's prepared for The Last Jedi. But last but not least, just to kind of put a kibosh on it.
Yes.
Just to bring everything full circle, your final answer on who are the Last Jedi.
I'm going to go Luke is the Last Jedi. Rey is just a Light Force user.
I'm going to go with Luke and Rey are Jedi. And I mean, I'm going to say Snoke and Kylo, they're like Jedi, but we're not going to classify them as Jedi. I'm going to say Rey is going to become a Jedi, and it's going to be, we're bringing back not the Jedi Order, but the Jedi Order, if you know what I mean.
Well,
not like the actual governing
the same way they brought it back as Luke being the Jedi Order.
Yeah, that's going to happen this time using Rey and Luke towards the top, towards the beginning. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think, anything about Star Wars The Last Jedi, and mainly, who do you think are the Last Jedi?
Thank you everyone for watching the Rick and Johnny podcast. Click right here to watch another squanchy video, and let's get rickety wrecked!